when we're doing a field test and we're trying to set our FTP and set our zones, suffering is really hard, and I like to give as much leeway to the athlete as I can. So my pro tip is when we do a time trial, it should be around 20 minutes and use a set distance. And this makes it a lot easier mentally for the athletes to be able to complete it instead of pushing beyond the landmark that they finished last time just to get to that 20 minutes. So it's really nice for an athlete if they take a 20-minute test between two landmarks and are able to cut that down to 19 minutes. We're still able to average to get their power and to set their zones, and we know that they've improved and they know that they went faster. So I think it's a really great way to do it. It gives a little bit of leeway to the athletes.
Yeah, and I think especially cyclists forget that speed is still the most important metric in terms of who gets to the finish line first. And triathletes especially, that, aerodynamics help because it allows you to go faster for less power. It's not all about who can push the most power. And it's a good representation of if you can get to the same landmark faster, you're going faster.
Yeah, exactly. But wind and environmental conditions definitely factor in. So that's why I still think power is really important. I know you're a bit of a power basher in a way.
No, I'm just saying you can't neglect speed.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what matters. And especially with developing athletes as their bodies start to change. So young athletes, as they get bigger, this is really important because they know they've gotten faster over the years and things like that. So the three main takeaways from this module is that training zones make it easier for us to talk between ourselves, between athletes, between coaches, coach to coach, software to coach, everything. So training zones make it simple for us. The other thing is that training zones aren't an exact science. We need some leeway in there, and being 1% over your zone isn't going to totally ruin your whole season. And one of the most important things for me is that there are so many ways that we can benchmark our fitness. Just pick one and stick with it. And stick with it and stick with it and stick with it, because we can test it over and over to see how the fitness has changed and see how training zones need to be changed as we go throughout a training program.
And if you'd like a practical application of how to use training zones with a bit of banter, check out episode 53 of the Performance Advantage podcast. Dr. Matt and I started the Performance Advantage podcast to help runners, riders, and outdoor competitors integrate sports science more effectively into their training and racing.
So over the last few years, Dr. Will and I have covered topics like the lactate threshold, training zones, power meters, and fatigue. Now we're condensing these popular and misunderstood topics into practical courses.
Our courses take our same podcasting style approach to learning and education, and we break it down into bite-sized chunks that you can digest either all at once or as practical little resources to use as and when you need them.
So the biggest difference between our course and any other course you might have taken is that we don't lecture you. It's a conversation between Will and I, and we're explaining complex sports science principles in an easy to understand manner.
Yeah, we also integrate how we use them on the regular. Our courses come with a certificate of completion, as well as a lot of takeaway resources such as training plans, scientific articles, and quizzes that you can do to check your progress along the way.
Our sports science courses are available now. Register on performanceadvantagepodcast.com for immediate access.